Hi, this is Prashant Singh, co-founder of LeadSquared. Today, I have a very special guest in our office, in our podcast studio, Dhruv Gupta. He's co-founder of Orange Health, leading on-demand diagnostic lab of India. Dhruv has been a serial entrepreneur, founded ventures in different industries. Glad that you're here today, and we are going to talk about a lot of interesting stuff. It's not about LeadSquared actually. It's more about Dhruv, his journey, his ventures. So Dhruv, I think you have founded companies in e-commerce, in social media, in healthcare, right? I mean, very diversified.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have not seen a lot of entrepreneurs being so diverse. So what is it because of your education or the learnings on the go?
Thank you. First of all, Prashant, thank you for having me here. Very excited to be here and chat with you. I've seen LeadSquared a lot from the outside, and good to actually be here and see what you guys are doing. We're also customers, of course.
Yep.
So happy to like.
Thank you for being customer. Yeah,
always good. I know it's always good to meet customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to your question, look. I think the sort of connecting thread for all my ventures have actually been a personal connect to the pro, right? And that's sort of what has driven me to actually go and build those out, right? Where you personally feel that this is a problem. I personally relate with the problem, and then you go and build those out. Good or not is a different matter. Where you also get into that.
Yeah.
But over time, of course, you realize that it's not just your personal connect. It's also market size, opportunity, margin building, P&L, and all of those things that fundamentally go into building a large successful business, right? But it all started with a personal connect, because that also I realized creates more than just an economic incentive to actually build, right? It gives you a passion beyond the everyday, because every day is hard, right?
True.
Building a company is one of the hardest things you can do, and I don't wish it upon everyone. It's extremely painful, and in those painful moments, in those moments when you're down, what really drives you is your interest beyond just the economic benefit of what you do, right? So that's sort of.
So what was the transition from, when was the transition? Why from, I think it was after PwC you started your first company, right? And what was the driver? I mean,
Sure. So I've grown up in an entrepreneurial environment, right? And so I always had this entrepreneurial itch, to be honest, right? So about 3-4 years out of college, there was lots of ideas going on in my head. I'd always keep talking to my friends about, this is a business.
You went to college in US, right? I mean, your schooling was in India, or you?
No, I went to college in the US. I graduated from University of Michigan.
And schooling?
Schooling was in India.
I see.
I grew up in Calcutta.
Okay.
And so after college, like as I was working as a professional in tech and consulting, I was always sort of exploring ideas, thinking about stuff, whether talking to my family or my friends about like different various business ideas. I was in the US at that point. I would think of the India-US arbitrage. What are those opportunities? You always heard about the India growth story and things like that. And at one point, I got talking to my college roommate, right? My close friends, and at that time we were both 26. We were single, and we're like, we started seeing an explosion of specific dating sites. So before that, this is pre-iPhone era, so apps weren't a thing. It was still website era.
This was which year?
2006.
2006.
Like I played 2005 or 2006 when we got talking about like saying, okay, there's the internet is exploding,
right?
Because Amazon,
Facebook was already there. It was getting very
Facebook had just about launched. I mean, and you could see commerce building. You could see transactions happening. You could see the internet not just do transactions, but now it was trying to make direct connections for people, whether those social or things like that. And then one trend that we started seeing is that we started seeing dating becoming a big thing in the US, right? And the internet has this capability of connecting people asynchronously, right? And then we started seeing that not just generic dating, but specific dating, right? Basically saying that, okay, for different races who want to connect with each other, whether that's African American, whether there's Latino, you can actually connect. And then it got us thinking on the idea that, hey, why can't there be a dating site for Indians, right? And that's really what led to the creation of Desi Martini. And again, we could personally relate with the problem because like, hey, it'll help us too, right? Yeah. So it was a self-serving thing also. But as we got into it, we realized that we have a lot of hard learnings, right? With every business, you have those hard learnings, right? So within about 6 to 9 months of launching that as a dating platform, we actually moved it to becoming a social network, because what we realized was that even though Indians in the US or globally were dating, they weren't dating openly. As openly as, today, for example, dating platform, dating apps are general phenomena, much more accepted in the Indian community. But at that time it wasn't. So there was one of my biggest learnings at that time was what I call as a time culture fit, right? That whatever product you build, so the problem may exist, but your solution that you're building has to fit the time frame and the cultural mindset of folks at that point in time, right? So it was probably a bit too early, but like, okay, had I built that 10 years later, maybe 5 years later, far superior opportunity to do, right? So that's really how that.
The name is very interesting, Desi Martini. What's the genesis?
So again, we were 26, and what was in our head was like, this is a dating platform for Indians.
Yeah, where Desi is, I understand.
Desi is the Martini part of Martini was like, you go to a bar to meet people, right? So okay, he liked it to Martini. And it was a name that when we coined the name, it just sort of like, it rung a bell. It sort of stayed in your head, didn't really leave. Even though it was a long name, which is sort of an antithesis from that perspective, but
very catchy name.
Yeah, so we kind of went with it, and name stuck around ever since. Even though the company has evolved many avatars, today it's a social platform for movies and entertainment.
So HT Media acquired it, right?
So in late 2007, that company was acquired by Hindustan Times. By then, we had pivoted to a social platform. Then actually, Facebook decided to come to India, and we realized that being a pure social network makes little sense, because networks are about the power of your user base and the connections, right? Of course, there was little match that we could do. So we pivoted that from being a social platform to being a social platform for movies and entertainment, because that was an in-house strength of the company that had acquired us, HG Media. And so that's how we pivoted. And that company is still, today, 18 years up, that company is still running.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that must be a lot of satisfaction. I mean,
I think I take pride in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think entrepreneur. You are satisfied. I mean, if things are just alive and people are using it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know that feeling.
After Desi Martini, I mean, you ventured into healthcare, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the fitness space with
Yes.
Fit Hope.
Yes.
How did that happen? I mean,
so with Desi Martini, I actually moved back to India post the acquisition. I built that company out with HG for a few years. And then as I moved here, I saw a few things. One, I saw that, there's a lot of data about how India was the chronic disease capital of the world, right? And typically chronic diseases are affected by your lifestyle, right? Which is fundamentally about diet and nutrition. Over my sort of growing up years, over my time in the US, I got a lot of exposure to diet and nutrition. I realized that there was actually a large opportunity for actually building something in India which help people live healthier. And it's all like chronic diseases are often managed by lifestyle changes, right? So eating the right food, getting the right amount of exercise. These are the two biggest movers to really help you manage chronic diseases. So FITO was actually a personalized nutrition and exercise program that helped people manage their chronic diseases. So whether that's obesity, whether that's diabetes, heart disease, all of these are affected by that. So that's really how that started. Again, like I said, the common thread was a personal connect to the problem. Mm-hmm. We all have family members, including me, who have chronic diseases, and you could see that they're not particularly driven by lifestyle as much, right? So that's really how that started. And
this was which year?
This was around 2011 to
2012. I see. And I would presume that this would be a web application or a mobile application in which people are using and subscribing to the health program, right?
Yeah.
And there'll be some fitness, some counselor or nutritionist. Okay, I see.
So it was the digital version of what you saw physical. One of my learnings from building Desi Martini was that if you can leverage existing behavior, right, and reduce friction on that, right, that allows you to actually build something of scale, right? So here we basically saw, okay, there is a behavior where people are looking for guidance on living healthier, paying for it, right? Going to physical nutrition centers or having trainers and things like that. So that really led to the evolution of saying, okay, there's an opportunity for actually doing this where you can be at home. Will come.
Oh,
right.
So what kind of scale you achieved in this? Numbers.
I think we'll end up serving about 300,000 customers over the duration of that company. We started about 2011, 2015 when we were out to raise money. We actually pumped into Practo, and that led to an acquisition, very coincidental. But over that time period, about a couple of 100,000 customers. I see. So.
And then you started Orange Health, right? I mean, you were in Practo for some time.
And then we were Practo for a while. So 2015, Practo acquired Fito. At that time, they raised money and they wanted to do everything from curative to preventive. That's where our synergies met. And Practo had achieved significant scale. They were across many countries. So, Dr. Shashank, really enjoyed the conversation with him. And then we decided to join hands. And once that happened, then as part of the acquisition and there was a large opportunity because at Practo, we basically landed up getting exposed to healthcare overall. In fact, at that time, I remember the numbers for preventive healthcare as an industry was about 1 to 1.5 billion, right? And it's projected to grow in a few years about 2 to 2.5 billion. Maybe it's a little bit larger today. But healthcare overall was about 120 billion industry back then, projected to be 160, and I believe it's much larger today, right, overall. So when you see 100x larger opportunity, right, you see that. And the other thing was that you saw that healthcare was more a need than a want, whereas preventive is a bit of a want behavior. Yes, there is a need, but it's an optional need, right? Whereas healthcare is a non-optional need. And all spends in healthcare are driven, whether directly or indirectly, but it's an area that you care deeply about because you want to protect yourself, you want to live longer, you want to enjoy a better life. So we just saw there was a much larger opportunity over the time that we spent at Practo.
So Practo has been one company at forefront of healthcare, right, in technology, and I think I have a lot of respect for them. They are a customer, and I think they have done a lot of new stuff like parallel entrepreneurship within the same company, software business, marketplace business, a lot of things. I think.
That company has seen a significant evolution.
Absolutely, and they've been inspiration for a lot of other companies to try out new things.
And then they were the OG healthcare entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what was the driver to start Orange Health?
So over the time that we were there, we realized that while healthcare is so large, we saw that healthcare is quite unbundled in its behavior, in the consumer behavior, right? We decide that if we have a heart surgery, we'll go to one particular healthcare, let's say a hospital, right? That could be Narayana or whoever, right? If I want to have a baby, I would want to go to a maternity-specific hospital, right? And if I need to get medicines, I have a specific pharmacy that I go to, whether it's my neighborhood pharmacy or some other provider. If I have a gynecology requirement, I go to a particular gynecologist. It's not that one place serves all, right? So it's very consumerized in its behavior. Consumers decide where they want to go, and often this choice is driven by two factors. Quality is table stakes in healthcare. So it's often about convenience in that space, that who is the best provider that can serve me most conveniently. And we're talking urban consumers in India, right? We're not talking where there's paucity of service, right? Even at Practo, we were serving fundamentally urban consumers, and urban consumer behavior is more about convenience.
Truly.
We're seeing that play out in various
factors. Comfort, right?
Correct, right? But this is true of healthcare also, right? In fact, we were talking to one of the largest maternity chains recently. The founder large maternity chains, and they said that to have a baby, people are not willing to travel more than 45 minutes, right? Which is once in a lifetime event.
Yeah.
Right. And it makes sense because, in case you need to reach the hospital in an emergency, you don't want to travel that far. You want something close to you, right? So today, Cloud9, for example, has 13 or 14 locations just across Bangalore, which was impossible to imagine maybe a decade ago for them, right? But that's the opportunity, right? So that was one of our big learnings. The other thing we saw is that every sector of healthcare, and I can talk about primary care specifically because that was what we landed up working on, is in itself requires very deep work to actually build something of excellence. To build a brand, you need to go very deep into that space, and it's very hard for one company to actually do all of these, in a full stack manner, right? And being full stack enables you to provide customer excellence, right? Operational excellence, and thus win customers over. But it's very hard for one company to say, oh, look, I'm going to be a pharmacy, and I'm going to be diagnostics, and I'm going to be the best doctor consultation, and I'm going to do everything else for you, right? Maybe as a marketplace model, you could try something like that. But if you think about where the largest companies have been built in healthcare, they've all been full stack. They've all gone deep. They've had some level of customer differentiation. And they've actually all had operational excellence where customers are wowed by the experience before they actually go and, that it becomes something large.
I see. So convenience and speed would be
Yes.
key differentiators, right? I mean,
Yeah. So convenience means many things. In one of the fundamental things that we say about speed, right, is actually that speed in healthcare is a necessity, not a luxury. Right? It's how we show care, actually. If someone in your family called in and said, Prashant, hey, I'm really not feeling well, what is your first response? Your first response is, I'm coming now. Right? You show urgency, right? We show responsiveness, right? So answering someone with that, and that's where speed matters. So when you're unwell, being able to, whether it's talk to a doctor, whether you need your medicine, whether you need to get your test done, speed matters. It enables you to actually get treatment faster and see better health outcomes also. Right? So we recognize that this was a need. We recognize that there weren't, at that point in time, there weren't companies weren't thinking deeply about this, and this was an opportunity for us to enter the market, and that's how we launched Orange Health. Actually, Jan 21. It's a little over 4 years since we launched. With thesis that we will provide fast at-home collection to customers across the country, and provide fast reports. So we offer 60-minute at-home testing and 6-hour reports.
So what would be the total size of the market? I mean, is it like, may not be numbers, but is it like pretty big market and we are just at the surface of it? Because like you said, this is largely for metros, right? What about rural India? Is there play in that? And the reason I'm asking is, last weekend I was in an event with a group of co-founders where Yogi Adityanath was there, and he was saying that one of the problems he wants people to solve is of telemedicine, teleconsultation, right? And with on-demand diagnostics and combination of telemedicine can probably serve rural India, because doctors don't really want to go to the hinterland, right? There is dearth of good doctors. So how do people solve the problems of primary health care, right? So is there a market for companies like you in rural India and that can help in this direction?
Look, yeah. So the market is large overall, right? But to your point, it's highly concentrated. At least I can talk about diagnostics. Diagnostics is about a 12 to $14 billion market, right? Growing about 13 to 14% CAGR. So every year seeing that growth, right? And this is driven by adoption and by underserved markets, right? And the last one being the rise of preventive health, right? And now a lot of this market is actually concentrated in urban centers, right? So the top 10 cities account for about 45% of the diagnostic marketing, right? clearly that goes to show that, that 90% of India accounts for the remaining 55%, or 80% of India accounts for the remaining part of the market, right? Yes, there is a very large opportunity to actually serve that market. And each market has a different problem, right? So urban markets, urban consumers have a problem more of convenience. They have more choices, but it's really about convenience. In rural markets, it's more about availability.
True.
Right. And the internet is actually an incredible enabler on this, right? To be actually able to serve those markets. Now with AI coming in, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves, in being able to do some primary care for consumers across the country. But we're living in a very interesting age where we're seeing that consumers across India can now access high quality services, reach doctors across the country instantly, and get care as a result of that. With pharmacy and diagnostics, we are seeing the little bit more challenges because it requires physical delivery of the service or the product.
True.
Right. So that infrastructure is now getting laid. There are companies who are working specifically in those markets also to actually enable consumers in those markets and different solutions, because India is not homogeneous at all, right? There are we say there's India 1, 2, and 3. There may be even more Indias than that, right? And each market requires a slightly different problem. And I think actually, whichever sector of healthcare, you actually need to pick your market and go deep into that market, because there is a very large opportunity. Right? So consumers across have different needs. The company's DNA and the company's focus drives, which market they want to serve and how they want to serve that market.
But do you see there's a market in rural India?
Absolutely. It's because, like I said, healthcare is a need.
Yeah.
Everyone needs healthcare, right? And that market is underserved primarily from a distribution perspective.
True.
There is a strong spending power in that market, and when it comes to healthcare, when you're sick, you actually become you're not particularly price sensitive at that point, right? So the customer, even that market, is willing to pay. In fact, what we see often is that consumers from rural markets have to come to urban centers to actually get their treatment done, right? When things become serious, they have to go, and that's what we call as medical tourism. So there's a very large medical tourism play also. Just within India, not just global tourism.
True.
Thank you. Right. So yeah, absolutely. There's lot of opportunity built into that market.
I see. So I have heard from people that that test results may differ from lab to lab, and sometimes large hospitals tend to encourage patients to do the test again. Is there any problem in the quality of the results, or there may be some labs who are kind of shortchanging patients? Any insight into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, anyone can actually start a diagnostic lab. The truth of the matter is that Bangalore itself has 1,800 labs, right? 1,800, right? The estimate for India is that like I said, highly concentrated towards urban India. India's the estimate is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 lakh labs in this country, different companies, right? Whereas if you look at the US market, there are probably like 5 to 10 players covering most of the market, right? Now, what has happened is, now, since anyone can start a lab, right? And earlier, distribution was a problem. We didn't really have branded diagnostic lab. When I say about 20, 30 years ago, right? They were more independent, very hyper-local players, right? Healthcare has been hyper-local in nature, right? Healthcare brands also have been, as a result, hyper-local in nature. The healthcare brand, the national healthcare brand is actually a very new phenomenon in this country, right? So as a result, there have been labs across this country, right? But now with rising consumer awareness, with rising regulations, with rising incomes, India is now trying to put in more compliance in place, right? Which is And consumers being more aware also want, for example, labs to be NABL accredited. So as a result, what it's doing is that a lab which may or may not be like let's say a local lab which doesn't have as good machinery as a large lab which has NABL and good high quality machinery. Yes, you could see a difference in results. Absolutely right. The other piece that's actually very important to notice is that there's this rising home collection, right? Now, home collection for diagnostics is a very valuable service, right? Consumers once they've experienced home collection, it's very hard for them to go back to a physical center to get tested, right? But what matters actually in home collection is that your samples need to reach the lab as soon as possible, right? And the longer the sample stays outside, once it's drawn from the consumer and it stays outside, the longer it stays, the higher deterioration of the sample, right? Now, this is something that companies need to pay attention to. Part of the reason when we talk about fast diagnostics for Orange Health is not just for the joy of speed. It is because fast collection enables you to be relieved. Faster reporting requires faster reverse logistics. So we actually have put into place extremely fast, probably one of the fastest reverse logistics in the country, maybe the world on diagnostics, right? Which enable us to bring the sample back to our lab, hit the machine, as fast as possible to enable high quality results, right? So yes, different labs, you may see different results, but typically the good high quality labs, there's consistency across.
I see. So, I believe that you'd be covering most of the common standard tests, right? I mean, which has in the last 5 years, right? I think that's probably the age of the business, right? Have you seen any pattern in terms of the kind of tests people are doing that's changing? And also, I mean, are there any tests which are getting popular for early diagnosis of the cancer? I mean, because I think, in every family, right? I mean, we deal with people who would have been diagnosed with, something like that, right? So,
I'll talk a little bit about the trend. See, the most common tests continue to be the same. They're typically chronic tests or infectious disease tests and things like that, which people use for maintaining, staying healthy. Right. But what we're starting to see is a trend, at least among our consumers, right, is actually and urban consumers is a higher awareness. And so consumers, because they're more aware, they're starting to invest more towards their preventive health. They're starting to care more about doing more advanced tests. For example, if you take cardiac health, right? Typically, you would do a lipid profile, get your cholesterol markers, things like that. But now customers are want to do ApoA, ApoB, which are slightly advanced cardiac markers, right? And things like that. And we see this across the segment, right? But consumers are now very keen to protect themselves, right? We realize that actually it doesn't cost that much to actually get tested, once or twice a year, just do a full body checkup, but it protects you from future issues that you may face, right? So that is definitely a large trend that we're seeing. In terms of cancer, yes, we're starting to see more and more cancer tests being now done through blood markers itself, right? So that is the rising trend. And as technology evolves in diagnostics and overall, we will see more and more capability of us being actively able to detect cancer faster in more early stages, and that of course helps human health overall.
I see. So do you provide any cancer diagnostic tests today?
Yes. We I believe that we have blood tests which help detect about 18 different cancers.
Okay.
So we're already covering quite a large set. And this is a growing number, so that keeps growing over time.
I see. And there is also a trend on finding out what kind of diseases you may be prone to from your DNA, right? I think genome sequencing.
Yes.
That's also getting popular. I mean, have you thought about it, considered it, offering it?
We do offer genome testing, but this is something that the cost of genome testing is much higher, right? and the interpretation is not as easy for folks, right? And not just interpretation, even though you may get results, actually actioning from those results is slightly more complex, because it's a very large amount of data that you'll end up getting from these, right? So I think, but fundamentally, as the costs start coming down, as acceptability starts improving, we will see more genome sequencing potentially in the future. It'll become more, potentially could get to the point of you doing, every couple of years, doing a genome testing to sort of see how your DNA is progressing. What are the things that you need to watch out for?
I see. Is it like horoscope, astrological horoscope?
Yeah, biological,
Biological. Yeah. And what is the cost today? I mean,
so typical genome testing today is, I think, anywhere between 10 to 20,000 on average. The tests which are higher, the tests which are slightly lower, but genome and exome sequencing on average lands up costing in that range.
I see. So healthcare is a lot about trust, right? I mean, it's because people consider doctors, right, healthcare professionals as God. So what do you do to build trust with the customers?
Yeah, great question. It's one of the conundrums of building a healthcare brand. It's when you're a new player, how to get your first customer to trust you? Like, what gets in? So from the having had spent time in healthcare, me and my co-founder, we realized that trust is your brand in healthcare, actually, right? It takes time to build trust, and there are certain signals that matter, right? In enabling someone to trust your brand, right? So from the beginning, we were extremely focused on first doing the best that we could towards for a customer requirements, and then ensuring that we use that in a signal thing as well, right? So one of the principles that we operate as a company is something that we call as build for family.
Mm-hmm.
We realized one of the motivations also for us in building this company was from my family experience, where in late 2018, my wife and daughter had dengue. And when they needed to get tested for their platelets, you test your platelets every alternate day to sort of make sure that they're not falling, right? I tried all kinds of products out there, or tech-enabled products, diagnostics, but nothing actually worked. Eventually, I tried to call someone home, but the real solution was that I had to take them about half a kilometer down from the house every alternate day, in that fever and body ache and situation, to the lab nearby to get them tested, right? And so as we were building this company, we said, what we want to build should be something that we use for our families every day, and everyone who works in our company should feel the same. And if they don't, we tell people openly when they join our company that this is a value for our company. So everything that you do should be something that you are happy to do for your family, whether that's writing a piece of code, whether that is choosing a particular machinery, whether that's a customer SOP, right? Whether it is choosing a person, saying, will this person make the right choices in your company? Do you trust this person to make the right choices? Do you trust this person to come to your home and test your family, right? Do you trust this person to do the right actions? So across the company, that's a principle that we've applied, and that has allowed us to actually first have trust in our own service, and then when you have trust in your own service, it's easy to communicate to customers across, right? That's actually been a driving factor for us, and that's helped us make better choices for us as consumers, and thus for our consumers as well, right? And that's fundamentally what has helped us win in the markets that we're in today.
I see. So what's your scale today? How many tests may be happening per day, per month?
We do about 1 million tests a year.
Okay.
That's our current scale. We serve about 1 million customers through the 4 years that we've been live.
And your pan-India presence, all the metros, or?
We're in the top 4 cities of India. So Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi and Mumbai. These Delhi NCR covering the whole city. These cities actually account for about a quarter of India's diagnostic market.
Okay.
So as of today, we're there. And what we're focused on in these cities is to go deeper into these markets, win more of the market share, and then we will expand to more cities. So geographic expansion is something that's natural for a company. But the other piece that we've seen with successful companies in the past as a playbook is that in the markets that they operate in, they start becoming strong players in those markets. Right? So that's actually been something that's been a thesis that we try to build out.
I see. And I'm assuming that you plan to scale. So, I mean, you foresee any challenges while you're scaling this? I mean, the same playbook will be applicable, or you may have to change a playbook when you, maybe enter, say, tier 2 cities, of India.
Yeah. So as of today, I feel for the top 10, 15 cities, this playbook can definitely, current playbook will play out. As we enter new markets, with every new market, and it's not just about markets, but also with time, consumer preferences change, technology evolves, right? So we do expect that we will have to evolve and we will have learnings. Till now we've been in these 4 cities. In fact, when we were in our first city to our second city, we had, the most amount of learnings on building more robust systems, getting us our processes and products in place. And then our third city was easier and our fourth city was even easier. Right. And so with that, we've been able to scale well across our cities and maintain the same levels of quality and customer experience throughout. Right. But yes, absolutely. As you scale, and not just tier 2 markets, but even within cities. Right. As you scale within cities, your solutions have to change. Right. There's a lot of learning on saying, okay, how does an early adopter customer behave versus a mass adopter? Right. So you have to actually evolve with customer behavior.
I see. Is it like hyperlocal market in metros? Is it like localized?
Somewhat localized, but us being an at-home brand,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's more city based in nature, right?
Okay,
right. The physical centers have more of a hyperlocal brand.
You don't have any physical centers, or do you?
Now we do.
Now, how many?
Today we have about 18 centers.
Oh, you see. Okay.
Where, to that point I was making, that, as you go from early adopter to mass adoption, right, you have to build solutions that enable that, right? And even today, significant part of the market is offline. So it's important to be able to build a product which enables a customer. See, our goal as a company is we want to be most convenient for you, right? Many times it's convenient at home, but other time when you've gone to a clinic, it's, centers right next door to clinic. Just go there and give you a sample, right? So we're obsessed more with the problem of convenience for the consumer than with the problem than with our solution saying, oh, we're only at home and that's it.
I see. Okay.
So it's an evolution for us also as a company.
And the labs, these are everything is in-house, or you partner with labs as well?
We're a full stack diagnostic company. So we have our own labs from the beginning. We've had them. We now have 6 labs across the country, across these 4 cities, building more as we go deeper into these markets.
I see. Okay. So in-house labs, your own offline centers, online business, right? And okay.
And even to the point we're full stack to the point that even all the phlebotomists. So it's a large operational force that we have. Right? Everyone is effectively full-time employed, or effectively an employee of the company.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we're about 1,000 people across the organization now, right, and growing. So that's something because to the point that I was making earlier, right? If you want to build a company that customers trust, that we want our families to use, you need to be able to deliver the right experience. To deliver the right experience, you need to have control over the experience, right?
True.
And when in a gig economy, it's much harder to have control. In a part-time or an outsourced situation, it's much harder to have control. If I want to make sure that the phlebotomist who comes to your home talks to you nicely, treats you well, is well dressed, is on time, is highly trained, I have to have far more control over that. Whereas taking a sample back to the lab, that third-party reverse logistics versus my own reverse logistics, or in the lab itself, having control, having full visibility. So our customers and when doctors use us also, they have extreme visibility into where is their sample, how much of the sample is processed, where are the reports, what are the ETAs, right? And that gives control to the consumer. Today's consumer wants control over the situation, right? They want to be empowered. We're all information empowered today, right? So that's what we optimize for. And as a result, we're full stack from top to bottom.
So what percentage of your customers would be repeat customers?
On average, about 50 to 55% of our monthly customers actually repeat customers. So we see a very high repeat usage.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's where the trust is important, right?
Yes, absolutely. And look, any business actually to that point, right? Retention matters. Right? Retention is key to building a long-term success.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's something we care very about.
So I'm sure technology will be a key charter for you. I mean, optimizing all of this, right? Providing the best possible experience, convenience, speed, and at the same time maintain quality and building trust. I think technology would have an important role to play. So I mean, what do you do for technology?
Yeah. Again, if there's something that you need to build specially, it needs to be done by you, right? And similarly for technology. Today, of course, tech has a lot of like build versus buy options. But whatever is special to our company, we build that in-house. So we have a reasonably large technology team that's focused on enabling this. And that's what, because you can have all of the elements, like your own labs, your own phlebotomists, your own logistics, and the whole system. But stitching that together and giving the consumer a stitched up experience requires all of this to be technology, to be connected, right? So we have a team that actually enables this, and so the whole operational processes plus our tech layer, along with the user interface, enables a customer to have a standard experience. In fact, today, something that we're very proud of is actually our customer NPS is 89, right?
That's amazing. I mean, that's very, very high.
Yeah, we're really proud of that. In fact, what drives us to that point, right, is because we're in an impact space, right? Healthcare is where you make impact to consumers' lives on a daily basis, right? And when customers who are anxious give us, for their results, for their healthcare outcomes, give us such high ratings, it sort of motivates us every day to see how we can make this better. So, if you just do Google reviews of Orange Health, we probably have 25,000-30,000 reviews. Probably India's highest rated diagnostic lab. Just our customers, right? Some customers have written essays saying how we would break the Indian healthcare system. Maybe too much love, but we love it. We love that we've brought love to a category which never elicited customer love, right? No one ever said, I love my diagnostic lab. Right. But with Orange Health, we've been able to bring that. And that's something that we're extremely proud of.
I see. So, I mean, I wanted to ask this in the last, but, what is the meaning behind orange? I'm wearing orange t-shirt by that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So Tarun and I, when we started the company, we basically were thinking about what do you name this company, right? And sometimes, and having had the experience of building companies, it can almost be a little bit paralyzing as an experience, right? To say, okay, how do I name this? If I don't name this, what do I call this? How do I move forward of this, right? And we were throwing around ideas, and Orange came up as a name, and we loved it because, we couple of things. One, it was simple, easy to say, easy to spell. It stood out in the category, right? Med, path, didn't have to be medical oriented. It felt positive, right? And so, just those two things, when it came together, we said, yeah, I mean, you could name a company. I think, why does a laptop company or a phone company have to be called Apple for that matter?
Absolutely.
A name. This actually we learned from one of the leading brand agencies in the world, where they said that what you make of the name matters more than what the name is, right?
Totally true.
The name only matters to the point of it being easy to recall and easy to spell and pronounce. So when it came up, it felt good to have that name. And we didn't think too much about it. We said, okay, this sounds like a nice name. Let's move forward. A couple of years in on building this company, I was at an event and I happened to meet a customer, right? And this lady said to me that, I love your name. And I was very curious, what is it? So she said to me that, when I use you guys, and I think of orange, I don't feel sick. I feel less sick. And, that just blew me away. I was like, okay, never thought of it from that perspective. But
yes, it's a color of positiveness and energy, I believe.
yeah.
So do you relate more with the color or with the fruit?
Today the color is quite dominant across all our assets.
True. I see. So coming back to technology, what's the size of a tech team?
We're about 50 people across.
Size. Okay, that's a good size. Nice.
Yeah, I think today, from a sizing perspective also, right? There are lots of tools out there that enable companies to actually be able to build, things like, for example, because we use LeadSquared now, right? It enables us to not have to build customer service, lead gen platform.
You should never build.
Absolutely. Like there's so many companies who build incredible tools out there. And it just makes sense for companies like us. Like I said, a company should build what is core to them from a technology perspective, what no one else is building. But if it's already been built out there, it's better for you to actually leverage that till it gets to a point where you have such large scale that you need to build your own,
True.
such sort of nuanced use cases, right? Till then, just build what is core to you.
True. And we totally believe in that. And we also get involved in a lot of build versus buy discussions. And I think we try to drive this point that if whatever is core should be built by you. It should not be, it should not be with LeadSquared, right?
Yeah.
Whatever is non-core, you should get best people in the market.
Yeah, and so much effort has gone in by this company, like for you to be able to source lead from various parts of the system, show it, be able to connect with all the ecosystem of calling and, all of that just makes it super seamless. I could do it myself, but is it worth it? Right. Nice. Far more useful for me for us as a company to actually leverage products out there. Like, it's good.
Thank you. So with such a high NPS score, 89, do you get a lot of referrals? I mean, word of mouth referrals?
Yes. Word of mouth has probably been one of our strongest growth levers, right? Because actually healthcare, right? When you have a healthcare need, more than a Google search, what matters is a social search. Your first reaction, if you need to you need to find a doctor, or you need to get a test done, right? You ask in your family group, in your friends group, you ask your colleague, you ask your friend, say, I need this kind of a doctor. Who should I, right? Or you use a platform like Bradco or something like that, right? But it's a social search. So word of mouth, right? Having that brand among consumers had actually been. In fact, in the beginning, I think for the first 6 to 8 months of our company's launch, we had no marketing specs, right? We fundamentally focused on just getting the service right. And it was consumers who actually marketed us, right? People who had used us, who had a great experience, who actually told other customers about it, right? So that's been a key driving factor for us.
I see. So how are you thinking about next few years?
Look, I think if I think about the broad play over the next few years, one, of course, be geographic expansion, like we talked about. The other will be our physical expansion, right? How do we become more physically available to customers across current and future geographies? And I think the third would be category expansion, saying that, look, how do you, our goal is to, when we think about diagnostics, right? Diagnostics is about providing health data, which fundamentally either your doctor uses to measure you and thus diagnose you, or a consumer uses to measure their metrics. So we think of ourselves as a health measurement company in that sense, right? And we will keep going down that path of saying, how do we help humans measure their health better?
I see. So I would presume what it means is that you can compare the results of how your health has changed over a period of time. Is that
one over a period of time? One is that. The other is the job to be done is measuring your health. Right. The means for that may change over time. Right. Today, for example, what blood tests are available to you through a diagnostic lab, that over time may be a device that comes to you that you have at home. Right. Because technology is evolving in that sense, right? So we think of ourselves in that, look, our job is to enable doctors diagnose better, patients to measure their health better, right? Whatever that means. Today, that means we have diagnostic labs which enable us to do that. Over time, as the world evolves, we will basically evolve with that.
I see. Are you also thinking in terms of bringing any variables?
Potentially. I mean, that's right now we're very deeply focused on, enabling more lab-based diagnostics, right? But over time, as the world evolves, like I said, we're open to the idea. We're not a fitness company in that sense. We're not really into, measuring your heart rate and, your sleep patterns and things like that. There are enough companies out there doing that, large companies and lots of startups who are in that space. So that's not really our space. Our space is more on the health and medical side, to enable that we do all the measurement that it takes for you to do that. And if for that, over time, that becomes a variable, right?
So theoretically, if you could combine the lab data with variable data, I think a better diagnosis is possible.
Enable better diagnosis. I mean, over time, it may be that there are chips embedded in our bloodstream, which fundamentally measure us, right? So today we do let's say a checkup every 6 months, right? But and a heart rate was something that we never measured. Today we measure it on a daily basis, right? We talk about VO2 max, but over time it may be that we talk about our blood sugar level or track our blood sugar levels on a daily basis, right? That as we evolve, as more data is available to us, as technology evolves, we want to have more control over our health. We want to live better. We want to increase the health span along with our lifespans, right? And so to do that, we want to understand our health data far, far better. So yeah, it's it's a very interesting time to actually be watching how.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I was about to ask, I mean, you mentioned health span, lifespan, and so what's your take on longevity? I mean, I was talking to a friend who's a very senior guy in a big pharma company, and I was saying that, just be alive for next 5 years. What they are doing is going to increase the lifespan substantially. Those drugs are going to, come in the market and which are going to increase this lifespan substantially. Are you also hearing something like this that's happening?
Yeah, there's I mean, one, there's a lot of talk, right? Two, of course, there's a lot of research, because this is a natural need. We all want to live longer, but not just longer. We actually want to live healthier, right? So one is lifespan, which is how long you live, but the other is health span, which is that you of this duration of your lifespan, how much of it is that you are physically capable, right? That you physically enjoy all the things that you want to do, right? So I think, yeah, no, absolutely, it's a very natural desire for all humans to live longer, and to live healthier. And so we're seeing a lot of movement in this space, a lot of talk, right? I think it's been a desire all along, but in the last 5-7 years, we're seeing a lot of chatter about this.
True.
There's a lot of evangelism that has happened over this.
A lot of blogs, a lot of Twitter handles, books, a lot of books,
podcasts. So it's great that people are becoming more aware of this, right? It's great that people are starting to take more action, whether that's, and a lot of the action towards living better, if you go deeper into this, is quite basic, right? It comes down to like 4 or 5 things, right? Sleep, which is essential, right? Good quality sleep every day. Like give your body the rest that it needs. Exercise, getting just physical movement. Our bodies are made for physical movement, right? Nutrition, eat the right food. Don't put too much junk in your body. Some junk is okay. It's like, it's hard to avoid junk completely, right? And then just track where you are, right?
Yeah.
If you just do this, I think, a lot of, it gets you to 85-90%. And beyond that, there's of course a lot more that you could be doing. But for those of us who are not longevity athletes, spending our days thinking about this, these are things that we could do with the busy lifestyles that we have.
So what do you do for exercise?
So I actually get a workout in pretty much every day, 6 days a week. I make sure that I get an hour of physical activity, strenuous physical activity, whatever that may be. So that may be running on some days, maybe weights. I even try to keep some yoga in there. I just basically what I realized is that human physiology works well when our bodies were made to move, right? And given that our jobs are so sedentary that we're always sitting, right? That 1 hour of activity that you can get every day is like the medicine you need, right? So that's something that I've been doing for a long time now. Just try to make sure I get at it, and like to those points I measured, I try to get sleep in because I actually am not able to operate with less sleep. I need my sleep, and if I don't sleep well, everything else doesn't work. My brain doesn't work as well. Far more far better decision making with better sleep. So I try to get my sleep. I try to make sure I get my exercise in. I try to eat broadly healthy. And just those things, right? Because when you're spending like 10, 12 hours a day in the office, there's very little time that's left for anything else.
True. So I think you write also. Is it a part-time thing? I mean, a hobby or?
It was a past thing.
I see. Okay.
It was so while we were building Fito as a company, right? In fact, the company before the company started, I started a blog, of just writing about good health practices, right? What it takes, like how do you run faster, how do you live better, weight loss, nutrition, bunch of these things, right? And as so Fito originally wasn't a business. It was more just a place for me to actually to write about health, to share what I had learned over the years. And I'm not like a full-time health professional, right? It's just something that I was sharing, and those who wanted to read it, right? But over time, I found that there were readers who would start coming to us saying, "Hey, can you help me with weight loss? Can you help me with eating better and exercising, all that?" So that's how it turned into a business, right? It was kind of organic in that nature.
I see.
And then as we were building that company, a friend of ours who used to work with a publishing house reached out saying, "Hey, you guys have such incredible content. Why don't we convert this into a book?" And that's how the book happened. So I'm an accidental author in that sense.
Oh, okay.
Didn't never really aspired to write a book, but it just so happened.
Is it still available on to be bought?
Still available. Still available. It's called Losing It.
Okay.
Co-authored by me and my wife Prachi, and it was why we did it at that point more than anything else was, as we were building this company, we thought that, hey, this is actually a great opportunity from a marketing perspective. Of course, the book goes out, but the book actually had a lot of flavor and a lot of like brand integration with our company. Right? So we said, okay, if people are going to buy this book, they're going to know about the company. Right? So that purpose.
Okay, I see. So you've been an entrepreneur for last from 2005, right?
Yes, about 18 years.
20 years. So any hard lessons, which probably you would not have learned without going through it? You get a lot of gyan, right? But without experiencing, you sometimes don't realize. So anything?
So many. I don't know where to start. Right? I could write a book on parenting, No, lots of lessons. I mean, like, no, Prashant, you also been an entrepreneur, right? So, lots of them. I mean, I can talk about a few that come to my mind like immediately, right? And I talked about this, like, one of the threads for me initially was that, if there's a problem that you experience yourself and that you're passionate about, you could solve that.
Right.
But over my time of building my first couple of companies, I had some experiences. One was that sometimes the market needs to be more than you, right? The market, like sometimes we land up identifying with very unique sort of like niche problems, which isn't really a market problem, right? So it's very important to understand that is this a market, right? Important to number one, do that. Two, be able to be in love with the problem than the solution, right? Often as entrepreneurs, we're very solution oriented, saying, hey, there's a problem, here's the solution that I believe is best. And of course, we love our own ideas.
True.
Right? And of course, that's when you get your hard learnings, right? That's like, there's a problem, agreed. But is this solution the best way to approach it, right? And I believe that the customers in the market are the best teachers, right? If the customers lap it up, yes, it's the right solution, but they don't. And the problem still exists. Clearly, you need to work on the solution, right? And there are many nuances to that, right? Like right place, right time, right pricing, right positioning. I mean, like, you could just go very deep into that, right? I think for me, that is probably one of the biggest learnings.
True.
And if you get those right, we were recently interacting with Arthur Patterson. He's the co-founder of Accept, right? He's an 80-year-old man. He's seen a lot of life, and a bunch of founders meeting him and asking him, saying that, hey, okay, what have you seen as the most successful companies? And he said that a great founder with a medium opportunity versus an average founder with a great opportunity, it's a large market and right timing, leads to a far superior outcome.
True.
Than the
market
who
plays
sort of
the
the
large
big
market,
founder,
yeah,
right?
true.
And so things get conflated in that sense, right? So
True.
opportunity matters, market timing matters, positioning, product, pricing, all these things matter significantly.
True. Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to it. I mean, as entrepreneurs, I think the most common thing among us is that we want to solve problems. We see problems everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And we want to solve them. And we think, why somebody is not solving them?
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes we get overboard with it. And
I sort of believe that we represent the market, but not always you represent the market.
True. That's very true. So knowing what you know today, anything you would not have done in any of the companies?
I don't think I would have changed the companies as much as I approached the problem from that learning, right? I think it's more that because all of those problems were real problems from my experience, right? But it was more how I would solve for them, right? That makes change.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dhruv Gupta. I mean, I think I totally enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for being a valued customer of LeadSquared.
Thank you.
And I wish all the best to Orange Health.
No, appreciate that. I really would.